You can always learn something new about World of Warcraft. Sometimes you can come across details that have gone unnoticed for years, and that's what makes repeat playthroughs so valuable, at least from a story and world perspective. A year and a half ago, I made a video on the Stonetalon Mountains, one of the more unusual zones in the game. We looked at the cramped geography, the strange extra paths that wind through the hills, the lost history of the Charred Vale, and the mysterious Venture Co. retreat, an area with a lot of potential that was seemingly blocked off before launch. Today, I have an additional set of small theories and details to share with you all, and I'm going to frame them around one central idea: the hidden spirit caves of Stonetalon. As always, thank you for the fun comments and support, and with all that being said, let's get right into it. There is a relation between the spiritual magic of shamans and the natural magic of druids. This is why we shamans can hear the plea of the spirits of Stonetalon. It is this cryptic bit of dialogue that sums up what's going on here in Stonetalon. This is the heart of Kalimdor, a land of old rock and ancient magic that is now under threat from the Venture Company. Let us begin a journey up the mountains, stopping as we go to uncover the forgotten secrets of the land. Just past the edge of the Greatwood Vale in the southern part of the zone, a path branches off that leads to Boulder Slide Ravine, a cave crawling with kobolds and maybe something darker. I made a video on this cave last summer, but I forgot to mention what lies just across the small valley. Another cave, unobtrusive and not connected to any quests. Looking inside, you can find a few torches, a campfire, and a few pieces of tribal art that look to be torn in nature. This is the first of the spirit caves I mentioned earlier, an isolated, out-of-the-way spot perfect for shamans communing with the earth. Branching out into the surroundings, one can sense the vast, dry forests that have spread to much of the zone, though they are now much diminished with the destruction seen in the Charred Vale and the Windshear Crag. The dry hills in the northern Barrens, which are very close to Stonetalon, feature many of the same types of trees, indicating that the Great Wood of old may have been much more sizable in the distant past. Directly north of the cave, the impassable mountains even have a secret message written on their summit, perhaps a bored developer or an earth elemental sending out an SOS. Before moving farther up the mountain slopes, let's take a detour across the Windshear Crag to the Talon Deep Path. This is the ancient elven tunnel connecting Ashenvale to Stonetalon, and while it's not one of the special spirit caves, it still has a secret or two I want to share. There is evidence that originally, the path was not supposed to cut through the mountains, but rather go over them. Looking above the tunnel, we find a small fragment of road connecting two rock faces, random but obviously intentional. Not only that, but there are two more fragments to the northwest, the first of which even features a small intersection with a path pointing down toward Ashenvale. Here's a bird's eye view of the entire system. I find it pretty remarkable the devs kept this much leftover terrain right above our heads this whole time. With a decline in elevation across these three plateaus, I can't help but think this original network was going to be similar to Dun Algaz in the wetlands, with several sloping tunnels and switchbacks guiding players up and over the mountains. The eastern part doesn't seem to point anywhere but unfinished terrain, though the western side could have easily sloped down into the Windshear Crag, perhaps connecting near the trail leading up to the waterfall. It seems the logistics of planning these specialized tunnels became too much, and the path we know today was installed instead. There's not much else we can gather from this unfinished area, but now you know that long ago, before the Talon Deep Path, we almost had a much more intricate Talon Deep Pass connecting these two zones. Moving on, the Webwinder path leads to Murkfallen Lake, the final junction that can either take you down to the Charred Vale or up to Stonetalon Peak. Let's look at the southern passage first, a narrow canyon that slopes downward toward the Vale. The air is heavy with the industrial smog that has settled on the lake, and you might travel through here multiple times without noticing the second secret cave, nestled within the southern slope. It has the exact same interior, which to me indicates they may have once been linked in some way. Returning to the intersection and looking down from above, I'd also like to reiterate my theory from a while back that this area directly across from the cave looks like it was once a route to the Venture Co. retreat, but it was blocked off before release. Alas, what could have been? This isn't the last we'll hear about the retreat, as our third spirit cave is now within the domain of the logging crew. While the terrain here prevents you from entering, by manipulating the camera we do know it is another identical copy, another potential site of meditation now eclipsed by machines equipped with blades and fire. From all the lore we have, this is where the Venture Co. is holding out after creating the Charred Veil, meaning this is where their presence should be the most dangerous. I'd love to see this area finished and opened up in Classic Plus, and I know many private servers have incorporated this small valley into the story as well. Looking above the cave, we can also find another strange gap in the mountains that could have once been designed as an entryway, but we can't say for sure. Most players are unaware of this area, or just pass by it quickly on a flight path, which is a similar case to our fourth and final spirit cave. Continuing up the mountains, players eventually find themselves at Stonetalon Peak, an elven refuge with an isolated ecosystem and more ancient ruins. On foot, this is kinda the end of the road, but atop a griffin or windrider, there is much more to see and explore. Past the apex of the zone, flight paths down to Ashenvale fly over a sloping landscape of rust-red hills and a small green valley, separated by a small lake. Here, hidden away off to the side, is a waterlogged cave, identical to the others and again, a bit tricky to access. With the lake tiles spilling over into the cave, you can even get weird angles like this one, truly only for shamans immersing themselves in the study of water. Something else that really makes this area special to me are the highborn ruins poking out of the ground. Worn down but definitely noticeable. This completes a pattern seen elsewhere in the zone, subtle visual storytelling indicating the Kaldorei Empire was here in the distant past. Another layer of history to discover. But let's return to the spirit caves. 4 identical spots, intentionally placed, none of which seem to have an actual purpose within the game. You could argue the flyover ones are just for scenery, sure, but that doesn't explain the other 2 or take into consideration the areas of cut content. After doing some research, I have a theory that I think fits really well with what we can learn from the game files. Shaman players can cast 4 different types of elemental totems to help them in battle: earth, fire, water, and air. A class quest line has to be completed to earn the right to cast each type, but there's one that stands out. At level 30, the Call of Air quest merely has you talk with an NPC in Thousand Needles, who then just hands you the totem without any trouble. It has been speculated this was once supposed to be a much longer story, similar to the Call of Water, but it was cut during development. There's even an unused quest in the game files that references shaman players at level 30, which could be our missing link to a more complete storyline. With our 4 mysterious spirit caves just sitting in Stonetalon waiting to be used, I think it would be a really cool idea to have at least some of them used in Classic Plus, maybe as sites of meditation or calming enraged elementals as a part of the journey. It would also be cool to use this storyline as a way to consolidate your totems, maybe attuning your 4 items into a single primal totem that doesn't take up as much space. But hey, that's just one idea. When it's all said and done, you might find yourself at the small hut at the bottom of the mountain, satisfied with a job well done. However the spirit caves end up being used in the future, if they are at all, I think it's still really neat to explore these forgotten spots on the map and speculate about what they could be used for. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, may the Force be with you.